Hi Cuifen, thank you for coming to this interview with Human Impact Toastmasters. Can you introduce yourself to us?
Hi everyone, my name is Cuifen. I am a compost artisan, an ecological gardener, as well as an explorer of life through the topic of food and sustainability.
Wow, well, share with us your journey with food sustainability.
Yeah, so I first got into the term sustainability when I was in Australia. I was studying there and I went to take a 2-week course on what sustainability is all about. And that course blew my mind because I realized that as an environmental scientist who cares a lot about nature, sustainability was more than nature alone. It was all aspects of our life. But coming out of the course, I was like, then what do I do now? Do I continue just doing what I do at work and live life as everybody else, or do I try to do more? And I got inspired to look into food because one day as I was walking to my university, I came across a street of gardens, and these gardens is all food plants. It was saying that this is by the neighbors here, it's for the neighbors here, but you want some chili, some lime, go ahead, take some. And it's not gated. And it was all inspired by one guy, but he doesn't even need to turn up anymore because it's part of the neighborhood's culture. And I was so inspired, I wanted to bring something of it home. But for me at that point of time as a student, I thought that, well, 3 times a day I have to eat. Maybe that's how I can get started on my journey into sustainability, because I can 3 times a day make a better food choice. Now I would say that in Australia that was a way easier choice because I can choose what type of meat, what type of veggie, where was it grown by, or who is cooking my food. I can make a way better choice in Australia than in Singapore. In Singapore, if I go to the coffee shop, maybe yes, I only want to eat chicken rice, or I want to eat wonton mee, but I cannot choose a better made wonton mee or a better or chicken rice that ensured the welfare of chickens, or the welfare of the farmers. So I feel that in Singapore it is much harder to do, and I was very thankful for how it started in Australia. So for me, I think it's been a 10-year journey in Singapore, actually doing stuff that's related to food and sustainability. And part of it started because I started a community garden with my neighbors, and a lot of my neighbors were former farmers. And because of them, and also because of the garden project, I got to meet so many people out there who are also interested in food and sustainability. And they included commercial farmers, your community gardener, they included chefs, cooks, caterers, social workers, people who are in rental flats, people who need food rations, and your everyday person out there. And I realized that different people have a very different understanding of our Singapore, our daily life, the food that we eat. And there's so much to learn. And as I learn more and I do more, I started to realize that my journey into sustainability started with environment, a care for environment. But as I interacted with more people, it's not just environment, it's also caring for people. And now I'm also learning to care for myself, because what I'm learning is that when you eat better, and it's not just having 3 meals a day, but when you eat better, you have a healthier gut microbiome, you thrive as a human being, and you can do so much more as a human being. And it is the same for our nature spaces. And that's where a lot of what I learned through my community projects, I am practicing it in my own life, and I teach it when I go to schools.
Wow, I never knew that food sustainability is so profound. Yeah, when you go deep into it to study it. Right. What is your take on food sustainability in Singapore?
I find that it is a buzzword right now, and a lot of people like myself do not see it as a buzz thing, like it's our daily life. We see it as a human being, you have to be sustainable, and we all need to eat. So this is something that is very tied to our daily life. Why I say it's a buzz is that the government has been saying we are going green. We want to do 30 by 30. We want to go high tech. We want to encourage farmers and all kinds of ideas, and therefore we're putting in all this money. So there is a lot of action. But I see also a lot of failures, and I also see a lot of things that is not said. Why I say there's a lot of failures is that a lot of high-tech farms are closing. And high-tech farms were not necessarily a solution even before the government started to put in money. I saw a lot of promise in our local farms that were so-called traditional local farms. At least they were supplying to markets and supermarkets. But they are now closing down or being forced to close because high-tech has suddenly taken over as the thing to do. And also the government is taking back their land and not giving them what they need. So I've seen second generation farmers who actually saw their lives as farmers, but now they either have their farm overseas or they choose to change jobs like insurance agent, because you do need to make a living in Singapore. The indoor farmers, a lot of them who create all these indoor systems, first, all the external inputs are not being considered. Second, a lot of them are thinking from a point of view as an engineer. They may or may not actually have farming experience themselves. So I recently just visited a aquaponics setup in a so-called test bed lab. And yes, there is veggie growing. And yes, there is a lot of science that you can learn. But they cannot tell me whether the plant is healthy or not. They have no idea whether it is truly better. And they needed people with knowledge, and yet the people with knowledge is losing their job opportunities, their career, and all that because of the policy in Singapore. But at the same time, having talked to people in policy, I do have some hope, because I knew that the tech part, they are looking at it from, yes, we need to feed people, and from feeding perspective, they were thinking of volume. People like myself, we care not just about volume, but also what you are eating. Is it nutritious? Is that really what we need to be healthy? And at the same time, I saw that they are planning towards Singapore being a city with edibles everywhere. So instead of the grass fields that we see right now, it could be all edible plants. Some people right now are always very cautious, like, edible landscapes, are you sure? Like, would people come in and wipe everything clean? Because, we think that people are very kiasu, they will steal whatever that is part of, yes, Singapore's culture right now. But I think slowly we need to start to shift mindsets. We need to trust the people. We need to know that we can be better, do better. And edible landscapes totally work, because we won't be just be feeding the people, we'll be feeding the pollinators who also pollinate, who make sure that we get the fruits and the veggies and whatnot that you want to eat. Edible landscapes will help us make sure that the places we live in are healthier and better. And we would be able to grow plants that thrive in our region. Actually, what I realized is that we have so many edibles on our streets. Singaporeans, we are very food blind. We cannot see the edible, it's just another tree. But if you ask your friend from Laos, from Philippines, from Malaysia, they might tell you, hey, this one, we used to steam fish, we make jam, we can do all kinds of stuff with it. And yes, you cannot forage in Singapore, but I think we need to have a better sense of what do we have here. If one day there is a crisis, or maybe there's no crisis, but the thing is, do you know where do you get food beyond what is in the supermarket? And can we broaden our knowledge and understanding of food beyond the few veggies that's on the supermarket shelves? I think if we can broaden our knowledge of what is in the market, and also start to look at what is already here, thriving here in our own spaces, we can truly be more sustainable, because we can then start to put that into our own diet, and we can start to have our own little real local economy going. And there can be so many wonderful things that can happen from there.
Wow, thank you so much for your sharing. There's so much that we can do, in fact, with looking around our environment and, knowing what can be grown, how we can actually create an edible garden within our little space. as a little red dot. Thank you so much for this interview, Cuifen. Yeah.